All right, we're live. Hello and welcome. This is African King Academy. We're back again with another. It's a preview, actually. It's a preview. It's another video. It's a preview to the Elimination Chamber on the road to WrestleMania. We're going to discuss everything wrestling happened at the moment. Obviously, a lot's happened since the fall of the Rumble. It's been a very confusing road to WrestleMania, but we will talk about that and so much more. But before that, I'm going to let my co-host introduce himself.
Yo, it's nice to be back. It's been a minute. Actually, it hasn't actually been a minute. It's been just a week. So a minute is obviously more than a week. But a lot has happened. Obviously, the highlight, the cornerstone of the week has been Lost SmackDown between Cody Rhodes and the final boss, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, whatever you want to do. He had 1,000 different phases there. Bottom line is, like King just said over here, we're going to be previewing the Elimination Chamber, the final pay-per-view ahead of WrestleMania, which, again, I think this WrestleMania road to WrestleMania has. I'm just going to be completely honest now. In the intro, I'm going to spoil what I think of it. I think it's been underwhelming. And underwhelming is very generous. I think it's been a lot worse than underwhelming because, look, since Triple H has taken over WWE, I think WWE has been banger after banger after banger after banger after banger. To quote Sheamus, do not copyright me. But this WrestleMania, I think it was a slam dunk. I think at the end of the day, this WrestleMania, prospectively, retrospectively, however you look at it, both ways, could have had a slam dunk through CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes, John Cena versus Gunther, the perfect obnoxious face versus heel, and The Rock versus Roman Reigns, tribal combat. But we didn't have that. We're not going to have any of those matches, which is a shame. But Triple H has amassed enough credit in the bank for me to trust him now. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. However, I still think this entire road to WrestleMania has been pretty underwhelming. And even just things like SmackDown last week, apart from the Rock promo, which was very confusing at a surface level, but from a long term booking standpoint, I understand it. I rationalize with it. I sympathize with it. I just think WrestleMania isn't as an exciting, incentivizing, or empowering as last year. But, anyways, King, I'll let you start. What do you think of WWE so far? What do you think of the road to WrestleMania? How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
It has been underwhelming, but it's kind of like I feel like you don't really get the full gist of what's going to happen until the Elimination Chamber finishes, because obviously we need to know what the four main events for the four main titles are. We know two of them, and the other problem I have knowing two of them so early on is I'd rather have it been something that builds up over time. But I think WWE kind of put themselves in a box when they put Jay as the champion, Jay as the Royal Rumble winner. As good of a moment it is, there's only one way he could have gone, so it kind of reduces the amount of winners in the Elimination Chamber, meaning that there's less intrigue to the Elimination Chamber on the men's side. In terms of the women's side, yeah, as soon as Charlotte came and won, it was always going to be her versus Tiffy, and it'll be interesting to see who they put up against Rhea in the other match. Obviously, the IO Rhea match is on a Raw, but I don't think they're going to change the title on a Raw. It's most likely probably going to lead to a triple threat, I think, and that's probably would be more exciting for that women's title to have a triple threat match with them two plus an extra one. But it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, SmackDown has put a spanner in the works in terms of the main title, in terms of Cody, because obviously the Rock promo. But it was very weird. It was in the way it was done, in the way it was set out. It felt kind of Vince McMahonish in the way that it just all of a sudden the SmackDown changed completely at the blink of a hat. Matches were changed, segments were changed, and it kind of the SmackDown didn't flow as well. I do like what the tag team division in SmackDown is doing, because I like the Street Profits, their promos and everything of that ilk. But if we were to, let's say, go through each title in the main roster, I think most of them have been underwhelming in terms of the champions, in terms of the build, in terms of what we expect from WrestleMania. And I think that's probably the way you have to look at it. Go from the bottom and you work your way up. Look at the women's tag team titles, inconsistent, not really cared about, not much. Then you look at the two women's mid card titles. You have both your champions lose in qualifiers in Elimination Chamber. So you basically, in one fell swoop, devalue both those championships because you make those championships lose. Those champions lose. They didn't need to be in those qualification matches. They already have titles. You have to. When a champion's a champion, you have to keep their prestige up. They can't be just losing willy-nilly matches. So for me, you either put them in because they're gonna win and even look strong in the Elimination Chamber, or you don't put them at all. Especially with Chelsea Green's character, she didn't need to be a part of that. Doesn't suit her. I think I love what she's doing personally, but I don't think there's enough around that. Then on the other side, in terms of the Raw Women mid card champion, in terms of the IC title, I think she was the wrong pick from the start. I have no really interest in that title at the moment. And the match between her and Dakota Kai, it just feels like, you know what it feels like? It feels like early versions of Becky Lynch and Bailey. It's Haga Bailey versus early version of Becky Lynch when she was the Irish last kicker. And for me, it's not interesting. It's not interesting at all. But Augustia, in terms of the first three titles that I've talked about, in terms of the women's tag team titles, Intercontinental and US, how do you feel about them?
I wholeheartedly, 100% agree with you, King. At the end of the day, the fact that we're getting a repeat, I mean, the fact that we've gotten repeats of Dakota Kai versus Lyra Valkyrie, that tells you everything we need to know. It's underwhelming. There's no creativity. There's no inventiveness. There's no authenticity. There is no breaking past kayfabe. There's no David versus Goliath story. It just is repetition, repetition, repetition. That's what we're getting with the titles at the moment. And even with Chelsea Green, I I know a lot of people on social media, in the wrestling community, in the IWC, have been vouching, have been lunging for those titles to be defended at the bare minimum, but I'm not expecting the bare minimum. If you have those titles, those mid-card titles, and it's not just a theme, a rule within the women's division, it's also the men's division. Braun Breaker and Shinsuke Nakamura, especially Nakamura, I even forgot he had the title. I mean, you had him defeat LA Knight at Survivor Series, if I'm not mistaken, and what's he done with the title since? You built him up to be this badass, this Belgrant, this badass, this beautiful, this ruthless, this relentless Japanese warrior, this samurai blue. That's what you built Shinsuke Nakamura to be, but he hasn't barely defended the title, and you haven't built up his character either. I feel like he's going to lose the title before you can even get into his storyline, the same way HHH's book Finn Balor. So, bottom line, King, I 100% agree with you. As much as I give Triple H credit in the bank because of what he's done with WrestleMania 40, at the same time, when it comes to the champions, it seems like every single storyline there is with the champions, it's not about them. They are not the focal point. The focal point is the challenger, not the champion. You look at Cody Rhodes. Every single feud with Cody Rhodes, whether it's Kevin Owens, whether it's AJ Styles, whether it's even Logan Paul, the Maverick, the Maestro, who is a remarkable wrestler. But if there is a feud between the challenger of your division, he should be the focal point, not the contender, the champion, even Gunther. The fact is, with Gunther, his reign has been dominated by the Judgment Day, or the remnants of the Judgment Day, whether it's Damian Priest or Finn Balor, or recently as Jey Uso. It feels like his reign has been monopolized by the contenders, not the champion. And he's supposed to be the big, bad, the benevolent, the heel. He is supposed to be the heel. He is supposed to be the main villain in WWE. Cody Rhodes is supposed to be the main face in WWE. So it feels like Triple H, when it comes to champions, has not booked it as authentically, accurately, and as empowering as he could have. Now, going into WrestleMania in the Elimination Chamber, when it comes to Gunther, we know he's going to face Jey Uso. It's going to be David versus Goliath on steroids. And eventually, if that match is to stay the way it is, David's going to beat Goliath. Jey Uso will beat Gunther. It is the most predictable match ever. It is not really, in terms of wrestling styles, a clash of wrestling styles. It isn't the most compelling match either. But we're not going to complain. Jey Uso's having a record year. That's how WWE has said it. But if I was WWE, I with all due respect to Jey Uso, I understand you're having a record-breaking year. I understand Yeet is being received very well with the crowds. I would have that being a triple threat match. I would have a Cena or a CM Punk insert themselves into the match. That's how I would have it. But bottom line, King, before we delve into that, because we have a lot to get into this show, it is underwhelming how Triple H has booked champions. I think that's been his Achilles heel. I think that's been his weak point so far in charge of creativity in the WWE.
Exactly. I mean, went beyond in terms of the other titles, which interesting points as well. I do agree with some of them as well. I think it's not so much beyond the champions. It's I know you have to build credible challenges, but I feel like especially with the women's division, the mid card women's division, I feel like there needs to be more time for promos, more time to hear out their story. Because in the end of the day, their story is gonna be the one thing that you can actually kind of bank on. That's the crux of the mid card titles in all divisions, especially the men's. I think in terms of Shinsuke, he's just lurking in the background. He isn't doing anything, and they're just revisiting him in LA Knight when you can do so much different stuff. You got the likes of Carmelo Hayes, got the likes of Andrade, you've got even Santos Escobar, a guy who was great on NXT. So I feel like when it comes to these mid card titles, people need to have mic time. People need to have the ability to tell us their story, because in the end of the day, that's what wrestling is. It's stories. It's stories that amalgamate into something. That's what made finish the story for Cody Rhodes so great, because it was a story of someone going for something that they haven't done before. That they have a reason to go for it. It's not just, oh, I just want the title. What what is the reason for you being here? What is the reason for you going after that US title? What's the reason for you going after that intercontinental title, whether it be either division? And then even in the main titles as well, for me, in terms of the world heavyweight champion, for men, in terms of Gunther, I do agree. I think like there's not enough there's not enough about him. There's so many times he can be the arrogant heel. There's so many times he can be, as you say, the Goliath. But sometimes I think you need more from him. I think the promos he had recently with Jay on Monday was a step in the right direction. But there needs to be more than just, oh, it's just for the title. There has to be something more beyond title. The title shouldn't make the match. The storyline should make the match, and the title should just be a thing of it. What was so great about last WrestleMania and some of the builds and storylines is that we have matches of Ulafadas, we have matches over bracelets, we had matches over things that weren't titles. So the storylines are the things that you have to kind of invest in, and a lot of these guys, you're not giving them the time to invest in them. The thing about Jay is, outside of the catchphrase "Yeet Yeet" and him doing the same Yeet promos, we need to learn more about him. Because all we've seen him as a tag team wrestler, right? Who is Jey Uso? What makes him the individual? What makes him the one out of the two brothers that made it this far? Because in ring, Jimmy's better. On mic, Jimmy's better. So what does make Jay special? What what's the thing that when you walk down the street, you're gonna say, yeah, that's Jey Uso, not Jimmy? And Roman has said it before in promos, but that's what we need to convey when it comes to making these guys important in terms of these storylines. And then even the other side, Cody, is for me is very boring in the sense of we don't get anything from him as a face champion. Like the most human element we got from him is when he was tag team champions with Jey Uso in that conference. That's the realest version we got of him. Ever since then, it's just felt unnatural. It just doesn't feel him. So for me, I feel like we need to, when you kind of see it, you can see it in bits and pieces in the promo with CM Punk. But there's only certain guys that are going to get that out of him. So when you're deciding who he's going to face, what is going to happen with storylines, push him in ways that are different. Have him say no to The Rock. Have that be the storyline. Have that be the crux of, okay, so if he isn't the corporate champ, who is? Who is the guy that's going to be the corporate champ? Who's the guy that's going to stop him? Who's the guy that's going to, the final boss is going to say, listen, you didn't want to make this happen? Guess what? Your match ain't a singles match anymore. It's a triple threat. I'm bringing my guy in, and guess what? I'm making it, and because it's a triple threat, no rules, and I'm bringing my guys in just to make sure that you don't win the title. That's the kind of things that you need to do in order to make the story be bigger than the title. That's what WrestleMania is about. It's about storytelling. It's about creating hype and creating anticipation for, oh, is this guy gonna win? Is that guy? Don't make it obvious. Don't make it predictable. It has to be different. Jey Uso and Charlotte was Jey Uso was unpredictable in terms of him winning the Royal Rumble, but it was predictable in terms of him choosing Gunther. Why couldn't he choose Cody, huh? Why couldn't he become the corporate guy? Why couldn't he be the guy to dethrone Cody? Huh? Why did he have to go after Gunther? He already faced him. We're not stupid. We saw Saturday Night Main Event. Same thing with Charlotte. Why is she going after Tiffy time? Why? She hasn't told us yet. We haven't found out why she picked her. She could have picked anyone. She could have gone after Rhea. Rhea's the bigger star in terms of, if you're calling yourself the queen of WWE, why would you go after the new girl? Why wouldn't you go after the elite of the elite? Doesn't that make you look weak?
Hypocrisy.
Exactly. And that's the things that we need to kind of listen to and understand when it comes to this business. And I think Triple H has some of the great things he's done. I do agree on this point, is that his champions have looked weak. And a lot of the champions at this point of time, I do not care about holistically in terms of, I don't, if I took the title off them, would I care about them? Probably not. Most of them, no.
Actually, King, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is there a champion you think that's actually been booked confidently, commandingly? Actually, I can't think of one. I promise. I don't think Cody, Gunther, Braun Breaker, Shinsuke Nakamura, Rhea Ripley. I don't think any champion right now under the Triple H reign heading into WrestleMania has been booked commandingly. Do you think anyone has been? I don't think anyone has been.
The only one I think that's been good is Braun, but
I don't think he's been.
I think I want to see more from him in terms of, I would like to see him speak. That's probably the only thing that I would say with him. But every time I see him in the ring, every time I see him hit a spear, like Royal Rumble, he had moments. The night against the moment against AJ Styles, where he's waiting patiently, hits I don't know who he hit. I think it was Dominic, and then that moment between them two, that's a WrestleMania match. That can be something. The wily old fox versus the young guy. That is something that I would see. But in terms of other champions, the only other one there's him, and I would say Chelsea Green, but just because that's who she is as a character. I think she's just a very interesting character. I don't think it's based on her booking. I just think what she does to it, the red, white, and green. The fact that she has what's her name?
Piper Niven.
Piper Niven dressed up as like a security thing, acting like she's the president of the United States Championship and stuff of that ilk.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment. He's Josh.
Yeah, I don't know what that. But anyway,
Anyways, yeah,
that kind of.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, if Triple H took a leaf out of, was it Geezer Josh King? I don't
Mm,
know, Josh, something like that.
mm,
If it was Josh, WWE would be very unpredictable and
yeah,
certainly watchable to the masses. So
yeah.
just take, like King said, take a leaf out of unpredictability, take a leaf about authenticity as well. I think what WWE needs to do, ideally, if I was a writer, if I was a script writer, if I was a main talent in the WWE, I would blur the lines between heel and hero. I don't think you need to be a conventional heel. I don't think you need to be a conventional hero. Just be authentic like Dwayne, but be authentic. Like Cena, be authentic. Hey, I am a hero. I represent good. I represent Make a Wish. I represent winningest. I represent rags to riches. No problem. You can do that. But also, hey, it's my last ever year. It's my last ever time. I'm never going to get an opportunity to win my record breaking championship. So you can blur the lines between heel and face. I think it's time to be authentic because now you're on Netflix. You're appealing to the masses. You're appealing to every demographic from kids all the way to elders, from grandparents to parents. Just appeal to the masses. Be authentic. Be who you are. And at the moment, with every single title reign, it seems like the stories aren't being developed. And when you look at each and every storyline, Cody Rhodes as a talent, if you watch them in AEW, if you watch them at the beginning of his reign, if you watch them last WrestleMania, it feels like his character is being restrained. Gunther, it feels like he's being too submissive, pessimistic. And again, I just feel like when it comes to Triple H, yeah, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, absolutely, you can, revel in that character, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I think it all hinges, and I'm not being, again, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being um, hypothetical. I'm not being anything. I'm just being straight up right now. I'm being authentic as I can. This Elimination Chamber in Toronto is make or break for the build, operative word, build of WrestleMania. And King, I think you were gonna go into that anyways. I have my own thesis on how that's gonna go. I think CM Punk is gonna win that 100%. I said CM Punk would win the Royal Rumble. That's not being stingy or stubborn. I do think he will win Elimination Chamber, and I do think whatever happens in Elimination Chamber, one of CM Punk or John Cena, whichever one loses, they'll insert themselves into a match at WrestleMania because A, CM Punk has the favor with Paul Heyman, or B, John Cena will cash in his record, whether it's with The Rock or himself with Triple H to WrestleMania. So I think one of CM Punk or John Cena will win the Elimination Chamber. They'll head to WrestleMania. They'll have a title match, but both of them will feature. So King, what do you think will happen at WrestleMania?
Wait, repeat the last what will happen at WrestleMania exact in regards to.
So yeah, I mean, while we were talking about the men's Elimination Chamber and the champions, I
Mm-hmm.
said my bottom line about the Elimination Chamber this week, the main Elimination Chamber match to determine who faces Cody Rhodes at the Elimination
Mm-hmm.
Chamber, I have CM Punk winning that match and facing Cody Rhodes for the title at WrestleMania. However, if CM Punk isn't to win that match, it will be John Cena. And whichever one of CM Punk and John Cena doesn't win that match, they'll somehow insert themselves into the title match. A, CM Punk through the favor he has with Paul Heyman, and B, John Cena, he will go heel. And I would assume Cody Rhodes declines that offer with The Rock to sell his soul to The Rock, and Cena is the one to go heel. So bottom line is Cena Punk main event of WrestleMania, but they're one of the two to win the chamber.
It's very interesting because, as I said, that promo puts a lot of different things into works in regards to. We assume that the Cody decision will happen before the men's elimination chamber because men's elimination chamber will probably be the main event of the pay-per-view. So that can have a drastic effect or change on anything that happens. Because if you turn Cody heel, then you need someone face to win it. But if you turn him, but if he says no, then who does The Rock pick as his? Because you could make that match a triple threat. Could even if someone wins the elimination chamber, The Rock may have someone else in mind to to be a part of that match, i.e., Jacob Fatu is a possibility. You never know. And especially if they're looking for someone to be the Rock's champion, look to one of the Samoans that could come in, or someone new. Who knows? Who has who does Rock have a relationship with for him to put that person into that match? So it's very interesting because it's like it confuses me because it was a very weird promo. It was like he was blurring the lines. He was the, as you said, good, bad, but it was in a weird way in which that you don't understand what's happening next.
I think the word is, and again, I know because YouTube is not monetizing the stream. I think the word is schizophrenic because Rock went from 1,000 different dualities in one promo. He went from
Yeah,
Hollywood Rock to TKO Rock to Final Boss Rock. King, I'll let you continue, but very briefly, I think it makes sense from a long term, but from a short term standpoint, I think the execution of the promo was very weak. It was one of
yeah.
Dwayne's worst promos ever in WWE, period, point blank. But long term, it makes sense because if the aim is to turn Cody Rhodes Homelander, it makes sense. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know what the fuck Dwayne was doing. King, back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And it comes to kind of feeling of uncertainty around WrestleMania because I feel like it was an audible. But what was it a good one? I don't think so. I feel like it comes from the failures of what they probably wanted to happen. I think I think the Rock Roman was a thing that they wanted to happen at WrestleMania, but because of his schedule and other things, it's affected the whole of WrestleMania in a way, and it feels like he's inputted himself into something which I don't know will be good or bad. So it confuses me because as you said, the promo was very bad, but in the long run, it makes a lot of sense in terms of if you want to turn Cody heel or not. You either turn him heel and he becomes a corporate champ. He says no, and then you put obstacles in his way. It gets to a point where you kind of have a thread of the Rock telling him he's not going to make it to WrestleMania. Rock telling him, I'm going to make sure that you're not champ even by WrestleMania, or that you're even walking by WrestleMania, because that's what the final boss Rock did to him last time. Made him bleed. So maybe he himself isn't going to make Cody bleed, but maybe it's going to be someone else, some people he hires, some Samoans, some Tongans, other people that he may bring in, new characters that you can bring in as well. This could be the way you can build up a new star if you wanted to. So it's very interesting into one, what Cody will choose, how The Rock will take it based on the choice. You still have to deal with Paul Heyman's favor. And the one variable that we haven't talked about is what is Roman Reigns gonna do?
True that.
Because he got taken out at the Royal Rumble by Seth. What is he doing what is he gonna do? Is he coming back in the Elimination Chamber to cause someone problems? Is he? That's a possibility. So there's a lot of, in terms of storylines, there's a lot of things happening, but it's comes to the point where you're like, is this going to make sense by the end of the day? And is this going to be the thing that is going to propel WrestleMania? Because as great as last year's WrestleMania is, that's last year's WrestleMania. This year has to elevate because this is the first year of Raw on Netflix. This is the first year of Raw being on the newer level, and can't be looking back. We need to move forward. We need new stars. We need new guys. And for me, I look at NXT and I look at NXT pay per views, and I feel like they've done a lot better in terms of how they've built up their women division, in terms of how they've put their matches together, how they put their characters together. And I think Raw needs to look at Raw and SmackDown need to look at that. And the other thing is that they have the main roster doesn't. With the links to TNA, it allows for unpredictability. Raw and SmackDown at some certain points becomes predictable. But imagine if you extended that TNA or other companies, then you can create maybe new storylines, new characters coming in, one-offs. I think people want to be surprised. I think people want to be shocked. But when when you're using the same similar characters, you're not really changing them too much. You're not giving them new, fresh looks, new ideas. Like a lot of these characters are kind of stale. Bianca is a very stale. I feel like a lot of the other characters are stale. What do you want? What do you want John Cena to do at WrestleMania? Oh, that's a very
Oh,
interesting question. In
thank you.
terms of
Can I interrupt real quick? Thank you. King, you might recognize that last
yeah,
name. I don't know if you've ever
yeah,
seen that last name before. Have you?
I have seen that last name
Have
before.
you? Are you sure you've seen that before?
Yeah.
You turning heel on me? No, that's my sister. Um, watches WWE as well. Thank you so much for commenting. What do you want John Cena to do at WrestleMania? I appreciate that. King, do you want to go first? Yeah, King, go first.
Originally, when Cena said he was going to do his year, this be his last WrestleMania, I wanted this WrestleMania to be a time where he builds someone up. I would have loved to seen him maybe even go against a Braun Breaker, maybe go against whoever the United States champion is at the time. Because I think for him, I don't think him being in the main title picture doesn't really do anything for the product in the long term because he's not going to be there for the long term. So what do? You have him build someone up. So I think for me, I would have loved to have seen him in a match with a guy that they probably think is the next stop. Similar to the matches that he's had with Solo Sikoa, with Austin Theory. Those kind of matches where a new guy can show if he's ready to go, if he's ready to make that next level, is if he is capable of competing with Cena. Because Cena is that grizzled veteran that's been in business for a long time. Having a match with him and being able to compete and win can skyrocket you to the next level, but I don't really know what they're going to do with him, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, again, Cena is a mixed case because it is his final year, so he has the credibility, the ethos, the hype, the engagement with that. But you've seen Cena in previous years, whether it's Solo Sikoa in Saudi Arabia or Austin Theory at WrestleMania 39. Even if you do beat Cena, it doesn't seem to elevate your career in the way it's supposed to, kayfabe wise, storyline wise. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, again, personally for me, King, I know you made some views on Cena just right now, and previously in our previous WrestleMania or WWE streams about Cena turning heel. I think the best thing to do for John Cena is you need to understand fundamentally what is your objective with John Cena this season. To me, if I was the WWE, I would say win your 17th because John Cena, bottom line, is synonymous with WWE. When you think of WWE, you think of John Cena. When you think of revenue and reach with WWE, you think of John Cena. When you think of the perfect face in WWE history, you think of John Cena. John Cena has been in the WWE before Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo have actually been competent Ballon d'Or, FIFA Pro 11 players. John Cena has been in the WWE before Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafa Nadal were actually all-time players. John Cena has been in the WWE before LeBron James ever even touched an NBA championship. So John Cena and the WWE are synonymous with each other. Now, John Cena has to win 17 this year. Period, point blank, no debate, no discussion, no dialogue. Cena has to be the one to break 17 because if it isn't Cena, nobody else deserves to break 17 in WWE. Now, when we were talking about previous streams and back shows, the shows outside of the streams, the calls we have outside of the streams, I've unabashedly, unequivocally, unanimously said that I don't think Cena should turn heel. I think Cena has been a face since 2005, and he should stay that because that's what he's been synonymous with. He has more Make-A-Wish awards than anybody else in human history, let alone WWE history. He is associated with the face. His relationship, not just in the ring, but with the fans and even with camera crew like Stu, for example, has been unparalleled. However, now that Dwayne, TKO Dwayne, the parallel, the equivalent to Triple H, to Vince McMahon, to the establishment has entered the fray, Like King, you mentioned, if Cody Rhodes is to reject that offer to sell his soul, and CM Punk is to win the Elimination Chamber, John Cena has no path to WrestleMania. John Cena has no path to a 17 title at the show of all shows, the biggest event of all biggest events, the biggest, the baddest, the best. There is only one way. And he wouldn't even have to turn heel because those lines between heel and hero would be blurred. Cena could easily go to The Rock and say, hey, you know what? If Cody doesn't want to do it, if Punk doesn't want to do it, I can do it. I can be the one. I can be the one to be your champion. And I won't just be your champion, I'll be their champion because they're the people, they'll understand me. They'll rationalize with me. They'll sympathize with me because bottom line is I was at this company through its low of all lows, through its trough of all troughs. And when it gets to the triumph of all triumphs, at WrestleMania, when WWE's reach and revenue, you would expect to be the highest of highest it's ever been. I'll be there with you. So, bottom line, I think Cena has to win 17 and the IC title this year. But if he doesn't win the Elimination Chamber, turn him heel. Because King, you are the one that actually convinced me, the catalyst to convince me with this. Cena was heel for quite a bit of his inception in WWE. Obviously, we had Cena, the rapper, the authentic heel that he was, the doctor of thugonomics. Go heel. Go heel, win your 17th title. Win it. Do it. Win it. Win your 17th title in a triple threat against Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. That's what you can do if Cody Rhodes isn't to turn heel. So I hope Cena does some, cash in that way.
That is very true. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But it's one of the cogs into the upcoming. Obviously, we've spoken into length in terms of the men's kind of elimination chamber and the possibilities. Obviously, there's a few other guys that are in there. You have Drew McIntyre, you have the likes of Seth, you have the likes of even a Logan Paul. So it'll be interesting to see what storylines they go along in terms of after this. Because there only can be one winner, and it's looking like it's going to be a Punk or Cena. But who knows? With this company, they can go in a different direction if they wanted to. Want to talk about corporate? Got Logan Paul. That's more corporate than anything else. As a corporate champ, they can do it.
Logan Paul.
Yeah, that would be super heat if you were to do that. But there's ways of doing things that can improve the product going forward. But we'll go into in terms of the women's side. Who do you think that's going to come out of the women's elimination chamber?
Yeah, it's tough because I think the best way to do it, the most boring but the best way to do it is process of elimination. And if you look at the women's elimination chamber, I don't think Bayley's going to go back to WrestleMania because she was just there last year against Io Sky. And I don't think she'll be the one to go back to it. I don't think someone like hold on, let me just check who's in it. I don't think Naomi or Bianca Belair will go to WrestleMania either. I feel like that feud with Jade Cargill, I think it'll erupt maybe next week. Next week on Monday Night Raw, for those who've been paying attention, we are going to get Naomi and Bianca Belair versus Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. Not Roxanne Perez. Oh my God, Raquel Rodriguez for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. So we're gonna see what happens there. I have an inkling. I have an itch that Jade Cargill will interfere. She'll interfere either at Elimination Chamber or here. That's not how I would book it. That's just how I think it will happen. I would book it at WrestleMania. I would actually, if I was in charge of booking, I would have actually had Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez against Bianca Belair and Naomi at WrestleMania. And I would have had Jade Cargill interfere there. I would have had an additional member of the Judgment Day help Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez win the titles at WrestleMania, but they wouldn't be able to do it just yet until Jade Cargill comes out and everyone thinks, oh my God, Jade Cargill is going to save Bianca Belair and Naomi, her duo, her squad. but she betrays them because they were the ones that attacked her in that entire car incident, that backstage incident. That's how I would do it, but that's not going to happen at all. I think Jade Cargill will interfere at some point, whether it's Monday Night Raw this week or the Elimination Chamber. So I think that puts out Naomi, that puts out Bianca Belair out of contention. I don't think Raquel Rodriguez will go to WrestleMania. That would be stunning. That would be too unpredictable, especially with Jey Uso already in it. The unpredictable factor for WrestleMania, she won't be in it. I don't think Bayley will be in it. I don't think Liv Morgan will be in it. So when it comes to WrestleMania and the Women's Elimination Chamber, I don't know who's going to win it, but I do think Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, those two will be in a WrestleMania match together. It'll be a triple threat for that title, for Rhea Ripley's title. So, King, if you ask me what's going to happen with the women's title on Raw, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus somebody else.
And who could that somebody be? Because you have Roxanne Perez, who's new, who's moved up recently. You also have Alexa Bliss, who's back, but she's going to be on SmackDown because she's dealing with have a lot of subliminal the Wyatt family, so it can't be her. So looking at the six, I think the most likely will probably be Bianca Belair. The second most is probably Liv Morgan. Just because those, when it comes to WrestleMania, you have to think for the women's division, it's about names. It's about what name alongside name would work. And I think Bianca would be the most.
But King, and I agree with you. I think if she wasn't in a feud with the Judgment Day or the remnants of the Judgment Day, I think Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky would be ideal, would be optimal. But if Bianca Belair is the one, what happens to Naomi at WrestleMania? What happens to Liv Morgan at WrestleMania? What happens to Raquel Rodriguez? Because Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss, that was a fantasy booking heading into WrestleMania. That's not going to happen anymore because they're on different divisions, as you correctly pointed out. So what happens there? Are they not going to be on the card? Because all three 110% deserve to be on the card.
I see Liv and Raquel being women's tag team champions probably. And I don't think it's gonna be Bianca that attacked Jade. I think it might be Naomi that attacked Jade. So you might have to see the feud be Naomi versus Jade. I think that would be the most.
Is that box office though? I don't think it is.
It doesn't have to be box office because it will be one of the middle matches. It will be kind of a thing where you can turn Naomi heel, which is something she hasn't been in a while, and you can have Jade have a match against one of the more experienced wrestlers in WrestleMania and be a feud type of match where it's just over. It's not over a title, but it's over trying to get revenge. So I think that's the thing that the women's division doesn't have is they don't have these. Every match that a women's division match is normally a title match. But sometimes you can have just matches just based on feud. And I think that's what the women's division needs. It doesn't always have to be title. Sometimes it has to just be storyline based. And I think in order for you to improve the women's division as a totality, you need some matches within WrestleMania that aren't around the title, that are based on a feud. So Jade Cargill versus Naomi on a feud, that improves the women's division because then it gives you the possibility of making storylines to these matches rather than the storyline being, I want the main title, I want the tag title, because that gets boring after a while. And I think that's the one thing the women's division in both Raw and SmackDown doesn't have. They don't have storylines like the men do. So, and I think Triple H, and that's the one thing that I would say NXT does a lot better, is that they give these women storylines that are more interesting than just I'm going for title. So that it gives you a reason to want to know them, want to follow them, and allows them to have promos in which they actually explain themselves and say, this is why I did what I did. This is why I attacked her. And then it creates further storylines going into further of can have fits of jealousy, betrayal, different kind of things, because that's what people want to see. In the end of the day, wrestling is a soap opera. It's a show. So in order for the shows to be a show, you need the women division to have some soap opera, some kind of matches that have storylines, because the title shouldn't just be the match shouldn't just be title, because every time that is it, then there's no drama to it. Oh, well, yeah, I'm just competing for a title. You see that in boxing. You see that in MMA. You see that, and that's real fighting. That's actual real consequences to that. So when it comes to wrestling, it's storytelling that has to be the front and foremost of everything that they do. That's what makes the great feuds. That's what makes the tribal chief character so great, because storytelling. That's what the finish the story Cody Rhodes so great. Storytelling. That's what makes the best moments in WrestleMania. Storytelling, and I think that's the thing that has to be thread through that we haven't seen yet as of yet when it comes to this road to WrestleMania. There is no story. It's just basicness, and I think, as you said with the Rock promo, that's adding storylines to a title match that we didn't even expect. That's what people want to see, the unexpected through the storyline. So I think, yeah, for me, you don't need to have matches at WrestleMania that for the title, and not every woman needs to be in a title match. And I think some of these women to just fight each other in the terms of, oh, you screwed me over to do this, you did this to me, etc., etc. So Liv Morgan doesn't need to be in a title match. She needs to have a match for for a reason of someone betraying her, being lied to, etc., etc. Same with Naomi. She doesn't have to be in the title matches, and create a WrestleMania in which you have the middle of the road matches mean something, because there's too many times where you watch a WrestleMania and one of these these multi-women matches that they put on, and it's just a toilet break. And what does that do for those women? If everyone's going toilet, if everyone's going to go get a hot dog or order some food, get their whatever their choice of food or anything is during that match, and there's no create excitement for the matches through the storytelling, and I think that's the major thing. But there is two more matches in the Elimination Chamber. There's the tag team match with the two women, Trish Stratus and Tiffany versus Nia Jackson, Candice LeRae. What do you think about that match?
I mean, that's the least incentivizing match in the whole card.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone will disagree with that whatsoever. I think Tiffy and Trish will win, just because I don't see why you would make Tiffy lose. I don't think why, unless Trish is going to take the pin, I don't see why Tiffy would lose ahead of Mania, because you want to build her up. You want to build her up against the queen, this goat of her generation in the women's division. So I think Tiffy and Trish will win. The more interesting match is Sammy versus KO, because that's decades upon decades. I think maybe 2 decades now, 20 years nearly, of feuding, of resentment to reverence to alignment to unity to winning the tag team belts together to contesting championships together to facing off at WrestleMania together. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Chemistry personified, cohesion personified. That's going to be one heck of a match. It's a shame that's not at WrestleMania, because that's a WrestleMania main event worthy match. That's a WrestleMania World Championship, a WWE Championship, an IC Championship, whatever championship you want it to be, a Winged Eagle title championship. That's main event WrestleMania worthy. But it's not going to be the main event of WrestleMania. It's going to be a match in the Elimination Chamber, which is in Toronto, incidentally, coincidentally, consequentially, where both of them debuted, both of them originated from. Two Canadians who worked their way through the independent scene, all the way to NXT, all the way to WWE. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn has the opportunity to steal the show. I think it will. Because if this is the end of the feud, at least for the foreseeable future, I don't think it's the last time they'll face off, because it's WWE, any company, any sporting competition is based on reach and revenue. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn at the top of any list, whether it's a bucket list, a bullet point list, a money list, is at the top of that match specialty or that match dream fantasy booking list. So I think Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn will steal the show regardless of what happens. I don't think they'll be the talking point, because CM Punk will win the Chamber. But after that, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens will steal the show. And I think in that match, I think that match will go all guns blazing, all guns out, authentic, unfiltered, unabashed, unapologetic, any word you want to use. That match will go not just inside the ring, outside the ring, in the stands, pile drivers galore, haluva kicks galore, pop-up power bombs galore, whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, when it comes to that match, King, I think Sami Zayn will win that match, and he will go on to face Karrion Kross at WrestleMania. I don't want that, but that's what I forecast will happen. And I think Kevin Owens will get the last laugh, though. I think at the end of that match, you can clip this, you can mock me after Elimination Chamber, but quote this. I'm looking at the eye of the camera right now, and I'm saying this. Sami Zayn will defeat Kevin Owens in an iconic, unforgettable, thrilling, unfiltered, unapologetic match where both fighters defeat themselves, defy themselves, kill themselves to the core. However, even though Sami Zayn gets the pin and wins the unsanctioned match officially, Kevin Owens will ambush Sami Zayn at the end of the match. And right when Sami Zayn beats Kevin Owens and Kevin Owens ambushes him, Randy Orton will come out and be Sami Zayn's hero and save him. So at the end of the day, Sami Zayn beats Kevin Owens in Toronto at home. However, Kevin Owens does not accept that, destroys him, deteriorates him, ambushes him, and Randy Orton comes out to save him. So that's what I think will happen. And Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross and Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, that'll be the matches for WrestleMania.
I would change it a little in terms of thinking. I think Kevin Owens and Randy will be the WrestleMania, but I think in terms of Sammy versus KO being a WrestleMania match, it is. But I think if you were them, you're wrestling in your hometown, you're wrestling in the place that you started at. I think it's their WrestleMania in their eyes because Toronto is probably more special to them than. And I think they probably put this match a bit earlier than it should have been in terms of the level of match. But it's good that they have the potential to main event the pay-per-view in this unsanctioned match. One thing I would say is I don't think it will be after the match that there will be interference. I think it will be during the match where you'll see Randy Orton interfere. And I think that's what will help Sammy win that match, leading into the KO versus Randy match. And the other thing is, I don't think Sammy will face Karrion Kross. I think Karrion Kross is there to turn Sammy heel to actually finally change his character. And it'll be interesting if we actually see what Sammy would do when Randy Orton attacks KO. Because there'll be a mixture of emotions, because as much as he does hate KO and they do fight each other, they're like brothers in a way. Brothers fight. Brothers have arguments. Brothers come together at different times. Would he look at what Randy is doing to KO as a good thing? Would he turn that screw? Would he, for once, realize, you know what, maybe KO was right. Maybe I should have helped him when Cody pretty much tried to end his career. Maybe this time I do help him. Maybe this time I go on the right side of the thinking and stop Randy. And maybe I kind of go into the level of which I want to be. And it'll be very interesting because I think in terms of Elimination Chamber Raw, I think it'll be a decent paper. There's a lot of kind of questions going into it. See, we got the two chamber matches. We've got the tag team, and then we've got the match that is most intriguing in terms of the unsanctioned match, because it leads to potential for other people getting involved, even people we don't know. So it'll be very interesting to see how they format this pay-per-view. See in Toronto. Hopefully it's a hot crowd, because the last time we were in Canada, the crowd was a bit meh. But I think I would like to also see the Cody Rock thing be at the start of the show, so that at least it kind of gives you a bit more idea of what might happen in the Elimination Chamber. Because you want it to happen before then, because then it's kind of okay. We're off to a hot start, then allow for the matches to kind of be the thing. Because I don't want the Rock Cody thing to be in the back of the people's minds while these matches are going on. I think it should just start the show. and then carry on from there, and then see how that affects the Elimination Chamber forward. And it'll be interesting to see who interferes in both chamber matches to create storylines going forward, and overall what will happen next. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think this is the time where if there's any audibles, if there's any changes, if there's anything that can create this intrigue or an excitement for WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber is the last is one of the is the last pay for WrestleMania, and I think it's been a poor build so far, and this Elimination Chamber needs to be the spark. There needs to be the moment where it changes it elevates it, grows it into the next level. Because at the moment it's kind of very tame, very underwhelming, and I think compared to last year's build, it isn't the same level. It doesn't have the same feeling. It feels like it doesn't feel like WrestleMania season yet, even though we're
Mhm.
on the road to WrestleMania. So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we finish up here?
No, I agree. I think again, if I was to give my bottom line 1 minute clip Elimination Chamber preview and prediction segment, I would have Cody Rhodes and The Rock segment. Very unpredictable. I don't know how that will go. I would expect Cody Rhodes to decline that, but because even if he is to stay face or turn heel, I don't think it would happen this abruptly or swiftly at the Chamber. I think they would tease it. They will tease a Cody Rhodes heel Homelander turn regardless of what happens. I think they'll have an impasse. I think Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton, I think they will beat Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. And then when it comes to the women's elimination chamber, I'm gonna actually King. I agree with you. I think Bianca Belair will win. That'll end up being a Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Bianca Belair triple threat match at WrestleMania, because that's box office that appeals in terms of every segment, in terms of a fan base segment, in terms of a staff segment, a support segment, and in terms of reach and revenue. And then Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. I think Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens will end with the Sami Zayn victory, but Kevin Owens will get the last laugh to protect himself as a heel. And then at the end of it, Randy Orton will come out to protect Kevin Owens. And Sami Zayn will end up going into his own rivalry at WrestleMania, but it will be Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. And then when it comes to the men's elimination chamber, I think Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre will end up feuding, although I don't think that is the best outcome for Drew McIntyre because he's coming off a record breaking historic year personally and professionally. Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest, who has been unbelievably protected by WWE, even in the last triple threat match that he had, even throughout the year. WWE just don't want to have Damian Priest be pinned whatsoever under any circumstance. I think Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. I think it will be Seth Rollins will be jeopardized by Roman Reigns, deservedly, by the way, because on merit, Roman Reigns deserves to interfere and interrupt and destroy what Seth Rollins wants to do, win the world championship, because Seth Rollins was the person who was culpable for creating the tribal chief. Seth Rollins is the person, by the way, who is culpable for extending the tribal chief. Seth Rollins is the person who is occupied or operated under destruction over diplomacy principles. So yeah, I think Seth Rollins will be taken out by Roman Reigns. I think Logan Paul obviously is not going to be the main event of WrestleMania. So, process of elimination, it will be John Cena versus CM Punk. And I think for those who are just catching on the show right now, I think it will be CM Punk who wins because he's never main evented WrestleMania. But either way, whichever or, both of them are going to main event WrestleMania because both have a favor to cash in. So yeah, bottom line is I think CM Punk will win Elimination Chamber, and it will be a great pay per view. But the feud for WrestleMania, unfortunately, has not been as smooth or coherent as it can be. King? You're on mute, by the way. We can't hear you.
Oh, my bad, my bad, my bad. As I was saying, technical difficulties, but no, this has been the Elimination Chamber preview on the road to WrestleMania. Obviously, we got one more Raw and SmackDown before the Elimination Chamber, so there could be some changes that happen up until the event, but I doubt it. be very interesting to see what happens. I think this has been a good talk, and yeah, I just want the Elimination Chamber to create more storylines and more opportunities for me to be excited about WrestleMania, because right now it's kind of a very meh road to
Stale.
WrestleMania. Yeah, very stale, very kind of 5 out of 10, and we need it to heat up a bit. But thank you for joining us on our Elimination Chamber preview. We'll be back for more content on this channel, and yeah, like, subscribe, and peace.
Deuces.